Okay. Welcome, everybody. This is the Thursday, September 15th, 2022 regular village board meeting. Let's call the meeting to order. Let's have a roll call, please.
Trustee Hallwax.
Here.
Trustee Listner. Here. Trustee Mulvaney.
Here.
Trustee Underdunk. Here. Trustee Rubin. Trustee Vree.
Here.
We have a quorum. We are live streaming this meeting and have posted the links to the live stream on the village's social media pages. We'll make the recording available on the village's YouTube channel following the conclusion of tonight's meeting. First item on the agenda is consideration of minutes. We circulated the minutes for the regular meeting on August 18th, 2022. Anybody have any comments, changes on those minutes? And if not, is there a motion to approve them?
Before that, real quick, sorry, President Rowan, I just wanted to make mention, we did have a committee of the whole meeting in August, and unfortunately, we had a glitch in the agenda management system, and those minutes were not included in the agenda packet, so we will include them in the October agenda packet.
Thanks. Any comments on minutes?
Motion to approve as amended.
Second.
Voice vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. Those minutes are approved. And I don't think those minutes aren't changed. I mean,
Correct. Yeah.
So there's no amendment there. Okay. Next item on the agenda is public comment. This allows for comment on items not on the agenda. If you want to talk about something on the agenda, you can do that when we get there. All comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Are there any non-agenda comments? I don't see any. Okay. The next item on the agenda is reports of committees. The first committee is the Committee of the Whole, and I'm going to report on that. We had a Committee of the Whole meeting yesterday to talk about gun safety. Had a big crowd, and people made a number of suggestions. A lot of those suggestions are reflected in the resolution that is in the back that was posted prior to the Committee of the Whole meeting, and that's going to be on the agenda tonight. We also had a Committee of the Whole meeting this evening at 5, talked about 3 subjects. One was residential construction issues, problems, and staff is looking at what we can do to make sure that residential construction goes smoothly for neighbors, particularly if contractors are violating the rules or taking too long. We had a presentation on water issues, particularly lead pipes that have to be replaced and how we might share the costs, on our new water meter antenna, and on PFAS chemicals and what we will be doing about that. That was the Committee of the Whole. The next report is the Finance Committee. Trustee Vree.
Thank you. We met, was it yesterday? Yesterday.
Yes.
And as we've discussed throughout the year, village finances are in very good shape, albeit property tax bills have not gone out yet. So assuming that they go out this year, and we are hopeful that they will go out hopefully at the end of November or early December, and that we'll start to receive revenue from those property tax bills before year end. But aside from the property tax bills not going out yet, the rest of the village finances are in very good shape. When we look at the variety of taxes that where we receive revenue, basically all of them are coming in above budget. Some of that's inflation related, but generally speaking, village is in very good shape financially. Expenses are coming in roughly within budget. While inflation is certainly something that's talked about widely, it's not necessarily affecting our expenses just from an operating standpoint. Where we are seeing certain things is in our CIP. Less from an inflation perspective as much as a long lead time. When we discussed how long certain things are taking to actually get. And so when we look at our CIP, the calendar isn't always holding to the way we want it to, and things are just taking a little bit longer to get. But also, all told, village finances are in very good shape. We're forecasting a nice surplus this year. And that was our meeting.
Thank you for that report. The next report is the Plan Commission. Trustee Lister.
Okay. Well, I get to see the unveiling right now. So let me give you an update on the comprehensive plan process. The Plan Commission and our consultant, Tesco Associates, along with village staff, have been working on moving the village's comprehensive plan process forward. We're very excited to be announced that the planning process will be called Calling Glencoe. And the public kickoff will take place on Saturday, October 1st in downtown Glencoe. We delayed the kickoff into the fall to ensure that we have the best chance of really reaching out to everyone in the community. And on October 1st, residents will have the chance to stop by, talk with the team about the plan, share their insights with Glencoe, and review the plan process for how we're going to go about developing a 20-year land use plan for the community. There'll be a lot more information about the October 1st event. It'll be released in the next week. In addition, in the next week, the project website will be released, and that will be www.callingglencoe.org. There'll be polls and places on the website to share feedback, and we'll blanket the community with a lot of information and opportunities to participate and share in the process. The Plan Commission has also established liaisons to all the various boards and commissions in the village, and will be visiting meetings that are going to be taking place over the next month or two to gather input from these boards and commissions. And I'm sure all of you trustees were also received requests for one-on-one interviews to share your insights too. So we certainly encourage everyone to be involved in the comprehensive plan. So it'll be an exciting next 18 months.
Thank you, Gail, for the excellent report. My only comment is the meeting in downtown Glencoe, and we have signs all over. The village manager knows what I'm about to say. For those of us who've been here forever,
You're going to say uptown.
it's uptown.
I don't
And-
hear people calling it uptown anymore.
Well, and I just, it's like which and that. We need to be.
Showing your age.
Well, yes. It's not just age, it's proximity and age. And I just wanted, for those of us who have been here
it's
forever and were straightened out about what this meant when they were 5 and 6, it's uptown Glencoe. Okay.
Downtown was in the city. Uptown
Yes,
was,
yes.
Vernon Park.
Yes, and just like that in which I'm holding firm. Okay.
President Rowan, I think you will be very pleased then to know that Hometown Coffee's
I am indeed.
upstairs space that they've just opened is going to be dubbed Uptown.
Right, and I'm going to the
Yeah.
opening
Yeah.
to congratulate them on getting it right. Okay,
There's a new building
Enough.
called Willis Tower.
enough with me. The next report is the Golf Advisory Committee, Trustee Hallwax.
So August had fantastic weather. Fantastic weather generally translates into a lot of golf, and that was indeed the case. So we were 7,800 rounds played in August. An average of 252 rounds a day. And for the non-golfers out there, those are just really big numbers. People, I've mentioned this before. People are teeing up well into the evening after work, which is just great to see. The Glencoe Golf Academy summer camps wrapped up for the summer. They were 14% over budget. I think, really importantly, 90% of the camp participants were Glencoe residents. High school golf season has started, and both the Loyola Academy girls and the North Shore Country Day boys are using Glencoe as their home course. And then the Friends of the Glencoe Golf Club, we had a meeting, and we were updating the board on the recent developments on the clubhouse project. And a marketing firm has been hired to aid in fundraising and awareness in the community and make some changes, which we'll be able to share shortly. And then this coming up Monday, the advisory board will be meeting.
Thank you very much for that report on golf. And Next is the Sustainability Task Force, Trustee Mulvaney.
Hi, thank you. As usual, we are working hard every day to make Glencoe the most sustainable and desirable place in the galaxy. So how did we do that last month? I don't know. I don't remember. So there is there is something that I think Phil and maybe President Rowan, you guys spoke with ComEd, with a member of our task force. But I'd like to take a moment to reflect a little bit about the task force before we get into that conversation. So it struck me the other day seeing one of our committees, a full room with staff, consultants, etc. And that's great, and I love to see it. Our sustainability task force affects every one of the other task force and really affects Glencoe across the board in all aspects, right? We are working to make Glencoe a safer, healthier, less toxic place. We are working to make the relationships between the business and the communities better. We are really involved across the board in all aspects, and yet we have a staff member doing a great job. Jeff, thank you very much. But you know, it just struck me that we are full of volunteers without the same degree of support. I'm not asking for that support at this moment. I'm just something to think about, considering the influence that the task force has had. I wonder where if there's a way to rebalance or to rethink how we leverage that and leverage the other skill sets in the community, in the village. But anyhow, back to how we are accomplishing our mission. I think there was at least this one action that you guys helped participate in, and I appreciate that. And I don't have a report on that handy, but maybe it'd be worth hearing a little bit.
I can do it. So what Trustee Mulvaney is talking about is that a group from the Sustainability Task Force and I met virtually with ComEd to talk about heat pumps. And we had, it was a really interesting discussion. I can't cover everything, but I'll say what to me was the most shocking thing and interesting was that the sort of guy who's leading the charge on this at ComEd said, if your air conditioning goes out and you need to replace it, you shouldn't. You should replace it with a heat pump. And that even in Chicago, the technology is improving, but even in Chicago, you could combine a heat pump with your existing heat or maybe others. But if your air conditioning goes out, you should get a heat pump, and you'll end up saving energy and saving money, although it takes a number of years to pay back, but you're eventually going to save money. I thought that was really interesting. There isn't an infrastructure now to help us do it. I mean, you have to find contractors, and there aren't many contractors. You have to find people that are knowledgeable. There aren't many people that are knowledgeable. But I think, and particularly because of the new federal law that's going to provide some incentive to do this, we should all be looking to take advantage and to try to become more energy efficient. So, and I thought that was really interesting. And from ComEd, now of course they have an interest in selling electricity, and this is going to transition people from gas to electricity, but it nevertheless still seems like a good idea. So that was a meeting we had yesterday midday.
Thank you for that, and that is my report. Thank you.
Okay, next report we're not going to get, I think. Council for Inclusion and Community, and Trustee Rubin would do that, but he is out of town. So we'll put the arm on him to do a longer report when he's back. Next report after that is our Preservation Commission. Trustee Onderdunk.
Just a point of clarification, I thought we changed the name for the Sustainability Task Force to the Sustainability Commission?
You know,
We did not. We did not.
Hasn't happened yet.
No, actually, they requested that it not be changed to the commission. They requested that
Oh.
it stay the task force. So
Okay.
the ordinance that's in tonight's agenda maintains it as the Sustainability Task Force.
Okay.
But you are correct that we should have updated the agenda to say Preservation Commission rather than Historic Preservation Commission. So we will do that
I didn't get
next
to
time.
that yet, but you're right.
Which
yes.
I got right, by the way, just to, show I'm
Okay.
paying attention. Trustee Onderdine.
Okay, the Preservation Commission met virtually on Tuesday, September 6th. Mr. Scott Javor attended as a member of the public. Since the board increased the number of commissioners to 7, Mr. Javor's recommendation for appointment is on the agenda tonight. The commission recapped the recommendations that were approved by the village board on August 18th and discussed how to have them go into action. The commission reviewed remaining recommendations, discussed how they might develop them for our future consideration. These items include reviews by the commission to modifications of landmark properties, zoning bonuses for existing construction versus new construction, the new potential building code for historic properties, the fee program, and others. The commission will continue their discussions and refine their recommendations in the future months. We also reviewed a demolition application for a home at 770 Elder Court and determined that no action for preservation should be taken. Our next meeting will be on October 4th at 5:30.
Thanks for that report on the Preservation Commission. That takes care of the reports of the committees. The next item on the agenda is reports of officers. And first, the village manager's report. Village Manager Crowley.
Thanks, President Rowan. Just a few things tonight that I wanted to share an update on. The first relates to continued incidences of vehicle theft and burglary. Over the past several weeks, we've again seen an uptick in those vehicle thefts and burglaries, and in virtually all cases that have been impacted, the cars have been left unlocked with keys in the car, and this is really a situation that we've struggled with in our community and regionally for a number of years. I've asked the chief to just offer a few comments on the subject tonight, and so Chief Lewandowski, if you would step forward, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Crowley. Again, I just want to double down on the message that we shared with the community in various formats throughout the past few years. Lock your cars and take your keys. This simple task virtually eliminates the possibility of your car being stolen or burglarized. A vast majority of the cars that are stolen in Glencoe are due to the cars being parked and left unlocked with the keys inside, and a vast majority of the cars that are burglarized are left parked and unlocked, and it makes it simple for criminals to take advantage of that. We continue to see groups of criminals come to Glencoe, often driving stolen vehicles and armed with handguns. They come to town and they just walk down the street and try door handles. If the car's locked, they keep walking. They don't try to break in because they know if they keep walking, they're eventually going to find a car that is unlocked. So please, for your safety and to make Glencoe less inviting to criminals, lock your cars and take your keys, and always call 911 to report suspicious activity. Do not confront these people. They are not afraid to fight back. They are not afraid of the police. And my suggestion is that if you see criminal activity, please let us know and don't make yourself known. Thank you.
Thanks. Before you go,
Yes.
so on Next Door Glencoe Day, there was something posted about a program to stencil label on catalytic
Catalytic
converters. Is that something that you think makes sense, and is that something that our residents should think about doing? I mean, the idea is you label it with, something so that if it's taken, whoever might get it will know it's stolen, and therefore maybe they won't take it.
I think it's most beneficial to help try to track down where they're selling them and, to make sure that we don't have scrap yards that are accepting these knowingly. It doesn't stop the thieves from taking them, but it does help us try to track the criminals and see where they're selling them to help us figure out who's doing it.
Is that something that the village should promote?
Yeah, we can promote that, absolutely, yes. Sure.
And
We can put something
my
together for you.
impression is that, according to, again, this is in next door Glencoe, that doesn't mean it's true. But, that there are, places to go where they'll do this, and that look like there are other villages that were helping do that.
There are some
sure there are.
active efforts actually going on in the city of Chicago right now. I think the 24th Ward and another that escapes my memory have had city-sponsored events where they are doing so. I haven't had a chance to talk about it with the chief yet, but we'll take a look as to what we might be able to do.
Good.
As long as you're standing up there, I was asked by a couple of different residents about this Safety Act that goes into effect Jan 1. I don't know anything about it. I know that, so at some point maybe we'll talk about the October meeting. If there's anything to talk about.
The Safety Act itself has been in place. What you're talking about is the Pretrial Fairness Act, I believe, which is effective January 1st of 2020.
Is
It's
that
part
the-
of the Safety Act.
Oh, so that this is the cashless bail or something?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know much about, but maybe it's something, if it's worth discussing in October, we can tell us if it's
I
worth
think we
discussing. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
One other thing, how many times have you been up here telling us to lock our car doors?
I can't count that high anymore. I know I sound like a broken record, but people aren't getting the message.
Well, that's the point, is what can we do to help get the message? Because it's a stupid problem to have, and we continue to have it.
Yeah, we're doing everything we can on social media. We're thinking about doing some kind of mailer with water bills, whatever we can do to remind people to do this. We've tried, we were on Twitter with this 9 p.m. routine. We've tried just about everything that everybody else is trying, and we're not different than any other town struggling with having their residents follow our suggestions.
We did push out some information after this most recent one. It's probably the most strongly worded information that we've ever authored on the subject relative to the fact that these individuals, as the chief just articulated, are armed. And they are coming into the community because they are being successful at getting their hands on these cars and using them for crimes. And we're not doing that because we want to shame people. We've heard that, don't shame victims of these crimes. We're not trying to. We're just trying to share very real information that individuals are putting themselves and public safety officers at risk. There was an individual who confronted some of these folks at about 4 in the morning in their driveway, and thankfully they ran away rather than working, or rather than doing something that could have endangered that person. But this is a real situation. It's not just something that we're talking about in the abstract. Our neighboring communities, Village of Wilmette just sent out a postcard mailing to every house in Wilmette that outlines the percentage of the number of vehicles that have been stolen that were left unlocked with the keys in them. As the chief said, we're looking at doing something similar. Again, these are simple things that we can do. Nobody wants to think that we are in an unsafe place, but we are definitely finding that we're at risk because vehicles are being left unlocked in driveways with keys in them. Garage doors are being opened. We need to be locking our stuff.
No doubt. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Chief. So second update tonight, summer is winding down, sadly, as we can tell. It's dark outside. It used to be light outside still. But several of our large public works infrastructure projects are still underway or getting underway. I've asked Dave Mao to just provide a brief update on what's up right now and to give you a sense of what our timelines for our remaining projects this year are.
Yes, good evening. As Village Manager Crawley said, we've got while the street resurfacing improvements are all but completed. The two of our large projects are going to be well underway here over the next 4 weeks. The first is the storm sewer improvement that was approved early in the spring. The first portion of that was the installation of larger capacity storm sewer in the intersection of Vernon and Sunset Lane. That work has been completed absent the pavement and curb restoration. Contractor is now mobilizing. The larger portion of that contract is the final phase of the Park Avenue, Washington Avenue basin drainage improvements, which are largely across the Skokie Country Club property. That work is underway. The contractor is doing some initial potholing of the irrigation system on the golf course. The head wall, which is the outlet point for that pipe, is over on the access drive into the golf course off of Prairie. That will be torn up, and that work will start next week. And then we'll see the installation of pipe follow across the golf course. Working closely with golf course grounds staff who all have their own project underway. They're doing a major bunker upgrade project, so we're hitting their members simultaneously, which is the way they wanted it, so that's worked out well. That work should weather permitting, should be completed over the next 4 or 5 weeks. And then next week we'll start physical construction on the bike path crossing improvements here at Hazel Avenue on the Green Bay Trail. Staff has been in. We did some clearing in preparation for that work, working together with the Friends of the Green Bay Trail. The village has a parcel south of Hazel Avenue that was largely buckthorn, and with their direction and input, we cleared that area. Once the new path is constructed and regrading is completed, that area will be restored with more native plantings like the trail to the south has been. So we're excited about that. So that's going to be an important improvement that'll carry right up. That construction will carry right up till Thanksgiving, more or less. So there's a lot of work to be completed there. Any questions? I'm happy to answer. Thank you.
And Dave, thanks for all your work and the team's work on cruising to get all of the asphalt streets done. That was pretty amazing to see the amount of work done in a very, very short period of time to make sure that we were out of the way for the start of school, especially around South School. So thanks to you and the team for that. The last thing I'm going to mention tonight, and I'm grateful to Trustee Listener for highlighting the comprehensive plan kickoff. We're excited about that too, so we'll be there, and lots of information on that October 1st event will be released this week and next. But Writers Theater has a open house event coming up on Sunday from 11 to 3. This Sunday, September, the 18th. That is a great opportunity for the community to perhaps get to know again for the first time Writers Theater, its facility, what they've got going on in their coming season, which starts late in September this year. They've got 4 shows that will be running through the season. I have gotten questions from new people in the community who have just moved, who have said, what is this Writers Theater? Is it community theater? Is it a movie theater? And I am kind of sad to hear those questions because Writers is a truly amazing amenity in Glencoe, as we know. A lot of their momentum was slowed by the pandemic. They did pivot as well as they could to streamed productions, and last year they did have several live shows that were really fantastic. So I hope the community goes out, takes a look. If you've never been to Writers Theater, it's an amazing architectural space, and the art that they produce in that architectural space is world class. So please do stop by Writers Theater from 11 to 3 on Sunday the 18th. And if there are any other questions on anything else that the village board may have, I'm happy to answer it.
No.
Thank you.
Right, the next item on the agenda is the village president's report. And the First item there is consideration of a resolution calling for federal and state action on assault weapons, large capacity magazines, and gun violence. So we had a whole meeting on this yesterday, at the committee of the whole. We had a pretty sizable crowd for the village of Glencoe, in which people had an opportunity to express their views. We got advice from our village attorney. We got advice from our public safety director. We talked about it. There was a consensus based on the discussion that we would approve the resolution that is now on the agenda for tonight. In the interest of the brevity of life, I'm not going to repeat all the stuff that happened. One thing I did say that I want to mention again is, as village board members, as a rule, we are not talking about national political issues. We didn't get chosen for that. It mostly doesn't come up. Regardless of our views on national political issues, most of the stuff we do is common sense, and unless your ideology is crippling, we can reach a consensus, and we almost always do. But gun regulation turns out to be, it's a national political issue, but it's public safety. That's one of our principal obligations. And so what I said yesterday, and I think it's the sense of the village board, that's an exception to the rule, and that's why we're weighing in on guns. I'm confident that the resolution that we're going to vote on is supported by a majority, probably a substantial majority, maybe an overwhelming majority of Glencoe residents. It is not supported by everybody. And, some of those folks spoke yesterday, and we recognize that, but in this case, we're, sort of we're doing what we think is our civic duty and representing the majority of our citizens. So, but everybody got a chance to talk yesterday, but if there's anybody in the audience who wants to say more with a 3-minute limit, now's your chance. You don't have to. We heard what you said yesterday. It counted. Didn't necessarily prevail, but it counted. But is there anybody in the audience that wants to talk about guns again? Anybody on the village board want to talk about what we did yesterday before I call for a motion on the resolution? And again, we talked about it yesterday, so there's no reason to do it, but you're invited to if there's something else you want to say. Okay, is there a motion to approve the resolution that was published beforehand, is out outside, and everybody had a chance to look at it? Is there a motion to approve the resolution calling for federal and state action on assault weapons, large capacity magazines, and gun violence?
Motion to approve.
The motion.
So moved, Your Honor. Second.
So I think Trustee Mulvaney moved, Trustee Listener seconded. Let's have a roll call, please.
Trustee Hallwax.
Yes.
Trustee Listener.
Yes.
Trustee Mulvaney.
Yes.
Trustee Onderdonk.
Yes.
Trustee Bree.
Yes.
The motion carries. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the appointment, and this was foreshadowed by Trustee Onderdonk before, the appointment of Scott Javor to the Preservation Commission for a term expiring on May 2027. Scott Javor, he was involved in preservation back when I was on the village board 35 years ago, and we benefited from his advice. He's been off the commission for quite a while, and he's an architect. I think he's an expert. I think he would be an excellent addition. The chair of our preservation commission thinks so as well. We interviewed him, and I highly commend him. If there's discussion, have at it, but if not, is there a motion to approve the appointment of Scott Jabour?
Motion to approve Scott Jabour.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Let's have a roll call, please.
Trustee Hallwax.
Yes.
Trustee Listner.
Yes.
Trustee Mulvaney.
Yes.
Trustee Underdog. Trustee Vree.
Yes.
Motion carries. Scott Jabour is on the Preservation Commission. That is the end of the reports of officers. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. The consent agenda includes items that have been published online for the community. They've been reviewed by the board. We don't think that they warrant any further public discussion, but if anyone disagrees, now's your chance. If not, the list of these items is, like I said, it's been published for everybody. If there's no further discussion, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Let's have a roll call, please.
Trustee Hallwax.
Yes.
Trustee Listner.
Yes.
Trustee Mulvaney.
Yes.
Trustee Underdog. Trustee Vree.
Yes.
Motion carries. That takes care of the consent agenda. The next item is, for the meeting, is regular business. The first item of regular business is consideration of a resolution increasing the Tyler Technologies Enterprise Resource Planning Software Implementation multi-year contract amount. We're never happy about increasing contract amounts, and I'll ask Assistant Village Manager Sharon Tanner to explain why we should do that.
All right, thank you, President Rowan, and good evening, members of the board. This evening, I'm pleased to share that we're nearing the end of our ERP implementation. As you'll remember, this is a multi-year endeavor that's spanned every aspect of our operations in the village, so it's been a significant lift. We entered into a multi-year contract in 2018 with a scope of work that at the time we believed met our needs. As is typical as we get into projects such as this, there are things that we find that we didn't originally contemplate that needed to be added to the scope, such as integration with the smart meters. That was a project that was advanced by a couple of years, and we completed in 2020 and 2021. There are some additional user licenses that we found that we need, and we think there may be a need as we get ready to cross the finish line with the community development suite for some additional training hours and support hours from our vendor. And so what we're requesting this evening is an increase to our multi-year spending authority on this contract with Tyler Technologies, so that we can move forward with the remaining items and get ready to close out the project. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
I have a quick comment. You know, on occasion we've asked for evidence of the efficiencies promised by the system, and I think that remains true. I think it's important that we make sure that the system is providing benefits, and we ought to at some point see some reduction in overhead costs and or efficiency in management as we implement this technology, right? So I'm not asking for any report now, just let's keep that in mind and make sure going forward we do have this check-in to make sure this large investment is actually reaping the benefits we anticipated, so we learn in the future.
Makes total sense, so we should do that. Anybody else have comments or questions for Sharon on this increase in the contract? Okay, if not, is there a motion to approve the resolution for the increase? Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Let's have a roll call, please.
Trustee Hallwax.
Yes.
Trustee Listner.
Yes.
Trustee Mulvaney.
Yes.
Trustee Underdog. Trustee Vree.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you.
And thank you for the presentation. All right, the next item on the agenda is referral of proposed zoning code amendment regarding the height limit in the B2 zoning district, which I think is Hubbard Woods. And I'll ask our Development Services Manager, Taylor Baxter, to present.
Thank you, President Rowan. So the item before you tonight is a request for an amendment to the zoning code that was made by the owners of the Hubbard Woods Plaza. who have requested consideration of a zoning code amendment to increase the allowable height of buildings in the B2 zoning district from 33 feet to 45 feet. This is not the first time we've had a discussion related to this topic. We talked about this at the June Committee of the Whole meeting. Gave some background on an overview of the situation in Hubbard Woods. At that meeting, the board instructed staff to move forward with the consideration of this amendment, starting with a discussion of the Plan Commission. With the Plan Commission, you may remember that there was some discussion about whether the design guidelines, as currently adopted, would accommodate an increase in the height limit on this site. And so the idea would be that at that time, we were going to go to the Plan Commission and have this discussion about whether we needed to update the design guidelines before moving forward with this process. We had some conversations with the chairman of the Plan Commission, as well as Village Planner Lee Brown, both of whom were very involved with the development of those design guidelines and had some deep knowledge of the intent and their intent for application in the Hubbard Woods District. They both felt that there was no need to take this to the Plan Commission at this time, and that there was no need to modify or amend those design guidelines in order to consider this. In other words, the design guidelines would accommodate an increase in height in Hubbard Woods without being amended at this time. We'll talk in a few minutes about the fact that any new building or any significant alteration of the building would need to go to the Plan Commission for exterior appearance review, regardless of its height and regardless of what the zoning code says about the height limit. So the Plan Commission will still be involved in the review and approval of any new building or any significant construction projects in Hubbard Woods, regardless of the outcome of this process. So, the process for a zoning code amendment, the first step is an initial village board review. That's where we are tonight. The board may either deny an amendment outright at this first meeting, or refer it to the zoning commission for a public hearing and a recommendation. If you decide to refer this to the zoning commission for a public hearing and a recommendation, they'll hold that public hearing. They'll give you a recommendation with any conditions that they feel is appropriate, and they'll send it back to you for final review and a final decision. Step 2 is where public notice would take place. There's not been any public notice regarding this to this point. There would be our standard public notice in the newspaper. There's no mailing required for this, but we would likely, given the nature of this request, we'd likely send out some letters to people who live nearby or businesses nearby, as well as the Village of Winnetka, likely for comment on this at step 2 there. The B2 zoning district is basically Hubbard Woods Plaza with one commercial site, the bank across Green Bay Road. The site that we're going to particularly talk about tonight is a former Walgreens site, which is at the southeast corner of Hubbard Woods Plaza on the north side of Scott Avenue, basically where it meets the railroad tracks. Directly south of the site, across the street, is the Village of Winnetka. So the B2 height limit right now in Hubbard Woods is 33 feet. B1 in downtown Glencoe, or uptown Glencoe, as it's often referred to.
Thank you.
Is 40 feet. So there's a bit of a difference. The background of why there's that difference is not firmly established, but if our design guidelines give us any indication, it's the ratio of the typical height of buildings in downtown to the street, and the width of the street in downtown, the width of the right-of-way to the height of the buildings, that ratio per our design guidelines would accommodate buildings typically up to 40 feet or so. An important point, Winnetka is, in their Hubbard Woods zoning district, has a variable height limit. In some places it's 35 feet, in some places it's 45 feet. Directly across Scott Avenue from Hubbard Woods Plaza, the height limit is 45 feet. Based on the map that I was given by the Community Development Director in Winnetka and a review of their zoning code, 35-foot height limit is properties that are adjacent to single-family residences. So a property directly across from from this Walgreens site, which is adjacent to Scott Avenue and the tracks, the height limit is 45 feet. Most of the Hubbard Woods zoning district in Winnetka has a 45-foot height limit. That's not to say that buildings are typically 45 feet in that district. The owners of Hubbard Woods Plaza currently have approved plans for a 2-story, 33-foot high building on the former Walgreens site. Construction of this building is currently on hold, and the owners are here, and they're able to speak in more detail of why it's on hold and also about the details of this request. This came from the applicant. Here is the currently approved Scott Avenue elevation. This is the approved building they could build today if they wanted to. They have a permit approved. The red line on top is 45 feet. So that gives you kind of an idea of the difference between 33 feet. 33 feet is basically the top of the left side of that, the left side of the building there. This is the elevation as approved today, looking from the east over the tracks. Again, with the red line there, this was provided by the applicant again, showing basically where if this was increased all the way to 45 feet, that would be the height limit. This is the draft of what a 45-foot building might look like. This is, again, that same elevation compared to what's approved now versus what could potentially be built at 45 feet, looking from the tracks. Some additional considerations, these are in the staff memo as well, you may want to consider as you have this discussion. First of all, as you know, and as we've discussed, the comprehensive plan is just getting started. We anticipate this to be an 18 to 24-month process before it's adopted. The comprehensive plan process will include a sub-area plan for several different areas around the village. One of these is Hubbard Woods. The sub-area plan will include a closer look at this area, and this is a quote from the proposal documents from TESCA, stating what they're planning on doing in this area. And it says it will work to identify the core purpose of that this area serves in Glencoe and evaluate the extent to which these functions remain or have evolved and how the areas relate to the current real estate market. So it may be worth considering how this request fits into the timeline of the comprehensive plan and the sub-area plan. Again, it's likely going to be at least 18 months, potentially longer, before that comprehensive plan is adopted. And again, the applicant, the owners and the applicants are here to give some more detail about why they feel this is the appropriate time to move forward with this. Another potential item to consider is similar to Winnetka, the potential for multiple height limits in the district, whether that be different parts of the Hubbard Woods site or a step back away from, for example, Green Bay Road. You don't necessarily need to have the same height limit throughout the entire site. You could have a different height limit for the parcel that is on the west side of Green Bay Road, the bank parcel, as opposed to on the east side. So while there's currently a request for 45 feet, it's not necessarily something that needs to apply uniformly to the entire site. Finally, again, any construction in the district will need exterior appearance review regardless of height. So if you approve a code amendment through this 3-step process and it gets back to you and you decide this is the way we want to go, doesn't necessarily mean, it absolutely does not mean that you can by right build a 45-foot building. You would still need to go through that exterior appearance review and get that stamp of approval from the Plan Commission, which will review it per our design guidelines. Again, next steps, the village board tonight can consider the zoning code amendment proposal. The options are denial outright, or referral to the zoning commission for a hearing and recommendation. That would be step 2. Step 3 would be returning to you for a final decision. And step 4, down the line for any new building, would be Plan Commission exterior appearance review. Again, here we are at step 1 tonight. With that, I will turn it back over to President Rowan.
Thank you for the presentation. You pointed out we have representatives of the Giannoulises who own the property. They're going to be welcome to speak. Before they do, I have to say, this seems quite straightforward to me in terms of today. It seems sort of obvious to me that we don't have much of an interest in saying that Winnetka gets to have a 45-foot high building, but in Glencoe you don't. That seems like kind of a bad idea. Maybe I'm wrong, but the place to find that out would be fleshed out at the zoning commission hearing. So to me, we should, there's enough for us to say, yeah, this makes sense. The owners are interested, and we should send it to the hearing and have it fleshed out, see what they say, see what the hearing shows, see what the staff comes up with, and then it can come back. And with respect to the folks that are here, back in my lawyer days, judges sort of used to look at you and say, well, when you're winning, shut up. So, let's, before we make folks, make their pitch, we should find out whether anybody needs the pitch to send it to the next step. Okay, now, having said that, we won't get mad at you. We're not going to change our minds. If you want to say something tonight, you get to, but you don't need to, and you can keep your powder dry. So.
If I could mention one more thing, which I did not mention before, in your motion, if you want to send it to the zoning commission for public hearing, you're more than welcome to provide extra instructions for anything in particular you want them to consider. It'll be variable height limits or any other considerations that.
So let me just say, consider everything. I mean, across the street is close to houses, I think. So, and what Winneck has done makes total sense when we're next to houses, and we always worry about that. And I think they should consider variable, and they should consider what the owners have to say about what they plan to do. And let me mention one other thing, which is I get the point about our comprehensive plan, but I don't think it's, Walgreens is vacant, and I don't think it's fair to the village or the owners of the shopping center to say we're freezing this. We don't need a special master for this to hold it for 18 months. So I think we should get the show on the road. Pete?
Yeah, well, an invitation to make some suggestions. I would like to suggest here that if we can add anything around the sustainability, it would be spectacular if we had a building in town that we could point to that was relevant and forward-thinking enough that it's modern and current in decades to come, not just today. And I hope that's what we're shooting for. We don't have a lot of teeth with respect to this going beyond our code, but if we can, I would strongly recommend it and suggest it and hope for it.
I don't know how we do that, but that's what our lawyers are for, and I think that's fine. So is there a motion? Okay, go ahead.
I'd like to state that there's a fact that this is not just for one property owner. There's more than one property involved in this, as I understand it.
Hubbard Woods Plaza is one owner, and across the street is a different owner.
Yeah, while I'm trying to make the point that we're not doing this for just one property owner.
We're doing it for,
We're doing it for the village.
We're doing it for the village.
Right. And that is the second point I want to make is we do have a train station immediately adjacent. And one of the planning principles that we like to follow, or I would like us to follow, is what we call station area development. And that is a little more density, a little more height in the vicinity of a major stop on the railroad. Okay, thank you.
There's a helpful point. Okay, is there a motion to approve a resolution referring the zoning code?
It's just, yeah. Just a motion to refer.
Motion to refer
To the zoning.
to the zoning commission a proposed amendment regarding the height limit in the B2 zoning district, and we could add advice on, we're open to anything in terms of whether it's single height or a variable height, whether they consider, as Winnetka has done, how close you are to homeowners, and possibly, if they can figure out how to do it, whether this new construction would be particularly sustainable. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Let's have a roll call, please.
Trustee Hallwax.
Yes.
Trustee Listener.
Yes.
Trustee Mulvaney.
Yes.
Trustee Onderdonk. Trustee Vree.
Yes.
Motion carries. And thank you for coming. Brevity is the source of all speakers' points. You held your powder, and you'll be good at the hearing. And when you come, and, you know, depending what they do when you come back. And we're glad, you know, we appreciate that you're in Glencoe, making our town better, our village better. Okay, that takes care of the regular business. Is there anything else anybody wants to discuss before we go into closed session? Okay,
Yes, sorry.
okay.
Three things have been on my mind, and I will hold my powder, although I don't know what that means. Annual review. You know, we've suggested a few times that the board itself go through a self-criticism. Have we made good decisions? How could we be better? I'm going to stay on this every meeting until we do it, until I leave in April, and if it takes that long, then so be it. So, you know, things like our board performance, we should be looking at our infrastructure, i.e. Tudor Court. We should be looking at the business relationships, one of our strategic goals. Have we improved business relationships between the businesses themselves and the business in the community? Emergency management. Oh my gosh, Highland Park, I didn't know what to do. What is our direction? We should be thinking about that for future boards and establish some rules. What worked for us during Highland Park and what didn't? Right, so I think we should take the time to reflect every year at least upon our own performance and have some hard criticism of how we're doing. I know we're great, but maybe we can be a little greater. The Poet Laureate we've talked about now probably 6 months. And I think that's something that could be really powerful and really unique and something that's creative, enhance our community with a Poet Laureate. Who knows how many times they may have been helpful in you know, let's say just post Highland Park alone. Having somebody who is thinking about that type of an outlet for people and helping people articulate their issues. Culture of caring. Again, last night we heard on the gun violence, how do we make ourselves more welcoming? I'm not sure quite why we stopped the culture of caring moment. It is such a simple thing to do for people to, and force ourselves to take a moment and think about others, and for people to express an interest in thinking about others. It's so easy. And I think there are, you know, so those are three things that have been sort of bugging me to try and move these issues forward before I exit here in April.
Anybody else? I mean, let me only comment on one of the three, which is the Poet Laureate. If I had a poet I liked, I might say Robert Service, and people would slap me. You know, the cremation of Sam McGee. I am not qualified to weigh in on this subject. I don't know if any of the rest of us are. And what I would say, you know, I'm not saying it's a bad idea, but I would suggest of the various governments in Glencoe that you consider shopping that one to the library board, where maybe they are qualified. So, I throw that out there. But I'm afraid if we picked a poet laureate, it might be Mr. Magoo, and it would not reflect well on either them or us. Okay, anybody else? Is there a motion to adjourn or to close session pursuant to 2C11 pending litigation and 2C5 purchase or lease of property?
Yes, there is a motion.
Okay, is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Voice vote. All in favor?
This one we need a roll call.
Oh, never mind. Sorry.
We need
It
a
said
roll call.
roll call, and I didn't read it.
No problem.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Hallwax.
Yes.
Trustee Listener. Trustee Mulvaney.
Yes.
Trustee Onderdonk. Trustee Free.
Yes.
The motion carries. Thank you, everybody. We're gonna, to go downstairs.